Good morning, my friends. This is Paul, and welcome to episode 5 of my ISTJ info dumping series. Today I'm going to be talking about how ISTJs express anger and sadness. Now, this is actually my second, actually I've had quite a lot of takes, but this is my second complete run-through of this, because in the original I thought, maybe it would be a really swell idea for my YouTube audience to see me when I'm actually upset and when I'm seething with anger. Oh, that didn't work out well at all. I did some jump scares to the camera, ended up nearly tearing up a couple of times, long, awkward pauses. I said, no, the audience doesn't need to see that. They just need to hear about it. And maybe some of you dominant feelers are thinking, but Paul, it's okay to show your emotion. Well, yeah, it is okay to show emotion, but not everyone's going to take it the right way. There are people that are going to misinterpret what you're saying. There are people that are going to say you are bigoted and hateful and prejudiced and all sorts of nasty names when that really isn't the case. And I'm not saying I'm afraid of those kind of people. Honestly, when you call yourself the Catholic Nintendo nerd, you're expecting to get a lot of hate. And if I was offended by all of that hate, that'd be a pretty stupid thing to do. I ought to just change my name, right? So, ISTJs have secondary thinking and tertiary feeling, as you've heard me talk about for who knows how long on my Myers-Briggs videos. But the reason why they're in the middle is because it means that we're not going to be all extreme when it comes to enforcing something, as the IPs and the EJs are. Because it's in the middle, that means our logic is not necessarily going to be 100% foolproof, airtight, but on the other hand, we're also not going to be these totally almost soulless monsters that are just totally incapable of seeing how other people feel. There's going to be some level of feeling that gets in the way of our logic, and some level of logic that we're going to oversee. It's very possible. However, that doesn't mean the ISTJs never show anger or sadness. On the contrary, they show it a lot more than you think. They just show it in a very indirect way. Kind of like the way that INFJs, in my perspective, talk in riddles, where they seem to talk in circles and just make things more complicated. That's what we do a lot with our emotions. But you don't necessarily see that part of us. Or if you do, you think that it's something else. You think we may be being rude when really we're crying for help. It's really bizarre. So let me give you a couple of straight points to make this a little bit clearer. For starters, you're less likely to see an ISTJ get sad than you are angry. Because if you see, say, an ISTJ in the workplace, you're going to hear them using the F word if things are disorganized or if people are being incompetent and not doing their job. You're going to see an ISTJ show anger when they're in a disorganized environment or when you mess with their routine. They're not going to be afraid to tell you that they don't like what you're doing or say something along the lines of, you're being an idiot. However, they don't completely go derailed and volcano head either. I mean, some of them do. We're not all cut from the same cloth. But generally speaking, because we have introverted sensing first, that's going to be the dominant way in which we're going to express anything. So if something in the past is holding us back, we're not going to show our anger to its full extent. So for example, let's say that we had an abusive father, as a rhetorical example. As a result, ISTJs that have had a reclusive father are not going to want to be reclusive to someone else. Because if they were to show anger in an abusive way, they would be reminded of the anger that they've been shown by their father. They wouldn't want to do it because they're sensing, saying, no, that experience was traumatic and I do not want to encounter that again. Said ISTJs may also not like it when other people get angry because they were yelled at. However, if that didn't happen in life, ISTJs are going to be more willing to lay the smack down. because they might have seen a father who was well-disciplined. And therefore, because the father well-disciplined the child will say, you know what, I really appreciate the tactics that you've done to make me a better person. And to the ISTJ mind, they're going to say, if it worked for me, then it's going to work for everyone else. So because they were model children, because of the way their father or mother, I've seen cases of disciplinary mothers and passive fathers, if their parents taught them with discipline and the child ended up respecting that, they're likely going to do that in return to others, because ISTJs are not hypocrites. They don't like doing what they don't like people doing to them. They follow the golden rule a lot, almost to the point where it becomes ridiculous to some of the non-dominant introverted sensing types. But what separates us from the ISFJs, because a lot of you might be thinking, that's a lot of emotion there, it's that ISTJs are way more in touch with how they're feeling than ISFJs are. ISFJs are generally going to, get the sense that something is wrong with someone, or they're going to, have this sort of almost foresight of, I'm pretty sure that's a hurtful thing to do. ISTJs, on the other hand, it's not necessarily going to cross their mind without a tremendous amount of effort, or if someone says, you do realize you hurt that person, right? And then the ISTJ will say, wait, what? I didn't hurt them. What are you talking about? To which the ISFJ might have to explain, well, here's why you hurt them. And then they'll say, oh shoot, I didn't mean to say it like that. And a lot of the times, ISTJs don't mean to be hurtful. They're just speaking the truth. It's kind of like, if they see a wall that's painted blue, they'll say, oh, that wall is blue. And they'll think the same thing about humans. If they see a girl that has brown hair, they'll say, oh, brown hair, very nice. And they don't see what the big deal is about just stating a fact. They don't necessarily have the emotional capacity to think, could that possibly be hurtful? Inferior intuition. I'm off topic. It's info dumping. I'm allowed to do that. If we were to express anger, it would likely be in a way that's very precise. Generally speaking, when other types get angry, they tend to sort of let it all out without necessarily thinking about how it's being presented. ISTJs, on the other hand, because they have dominant introverted sensing, they're going to compartmentalize their anger. And then they're going to use airtight facts to justify that anger. So they're going to say, you have broken a constitutional right. According to this amendment, you have really infuriated me. Or you have broken this rule. And so therefore, it is within my rights as a chaperone on page 34 of this guidebook that I should be expelling you and taking you to the council. Stuff like that. They're likely going to back up their anger with assertions that they know from elsewhere. They're not necessarily going to be angry for the sake of being angry. They might say, okay, so you are saying that my novel is trash. My novel is 800 pages long. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix is 860 pages long. What is J.K. Rowling doing different than what I am doing when my writing style is very similar to hers? We have similar theming, similar characters. You see what I mean there? That compartmentalized mind again. They're familiar with a style of writing. They're familiar with a way in which a novel is structured, so that's how they're going to write their novels. They don't like all this experimentation and saying, let's try to do it differently. Generally speaking, when an ISTJ tries that, it fails. And yes, you could say that's a little bit extreme, but you know what? I think a lot of other functions in the dominant position are extreme too. That's why it's dominance. Because, dominance. Like when a lion has a huge mane, it's to show dominance, power, force, We are very forceful when it comes to our facts, to our precision. So that's why when an ISTJ is angry, they're not going to fool around. They're just going to get their facts straight most of the time, if they're not too caught up in their inferior feeling, and they're going to let you know exactly what you did that was wrong. But they're not necessarily going to yell about it, especially if they've had a past with yelling. They might slightly raise their voice. They might speak in kind of a tough boy kind of attitude, like, seriously, dude, You really that thick to do that mistake when I just told you 2 days ago not to do that? That's likely how ISTJ anger is going to be expressed. Or they might say, how come you were 2 hours late to the hangout? Do you have a valid reason for standing me up? Why did you text me 3 o'clock when you showed up at 5? Do you realize that I had to cancel my other plans and I could have went through with those plans had you followed through with your word? What excuse do you have? And if the person says, oh, I'm sorry, Paul, I just fell asleep, I'll be like, well, why didn't you set an alarm? We made a deal. Why aren't you honoring that agreement? So ISTJs are going to have a reason for being angry as opposed to other types where they just sort of feel out of control and it kind of just happens. I'm not saying the way we express anger and sadness is the right way to do it. Honestly, I think the world would be a better place if we were able to be much more calm and collected all the time. But alas, anger is something that as Catholics we really need to try to tone down. Now, don't get me wrong, Jesus got angry, but it was justified anger. If we get angry at the slightest thing happening, like stubbing our toe, that's going to make it harder for us to tolerate the major stuff. So we learn how to compartmentalize pain in different areas. We can say this is little pain, this is moderate pain, this is severe pain, and this is intolerable pain. Whereas opposed to like some introverted feeling types where they might just say, this is pain, and whatever pain it is, it's pain. ISTJs are usually capable of saying something along the lines of, well, that doesn't hurt me that much, it's only just a twinge. And then say, okay, that really pushed my buttons. But again, you might have to really get them to open up before they're willing to reveal that to you. So in their mind, they're well aware of what they're feeling. They just don't necessarily know how to express it in the best of ways. This was a bit of a ramble, wasn't it? Because this is info dumping, again, I do hope that if I was vague or confusing, you will let me know in the comments section. Again, be very glad that I did not do the first take, or you would have... oh, yeah, you wouldn't have liked that. And just let me know what else you want to know about ISTJs. I'd love to keep making this series, but I can only talk about us for so long before it's like... there's only so much we can say. Eventually I'm a human being. I have finite limits. But then again, you don't really hear too much about ISTJs talking about ISTJs online. So, leave a comment. I don't really care if you leave a like or dislike. Just if you do decide to hit the dislike button, tell me why you disliked the video so I can put that inside my brain and say, okay, learning how not to do that for a future video so that the odds of success are greater. With that, thank you very much for watching, and until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and please do not break your word. Bye!